Hello everyone, it's Tom Smith here, and welcome to the final episode of Blue Diamond Ranked. At least the final episode for right now. As we look at the final category of our films, the class projects. These are the films I worked on while I was in school. And also we will look at the Lost Scene 5 Retribution. And just going ahead and getting into it, we asked the first one was, what grade would you give the classy, the cool, and the casual? And we see with 8 votes, 12% gave it an A, 25% gave it a B, and 62% gave it a C. And when we do all the math here, considering A a score of 5, B a score of 4, C a score of 3, D a score of 2, and F a score of 1, the classy, the cool, and the casual ends up with an average score of 3.50. Which, honestly, I'm not surprised. Very simple film. The three of us were assigned to this project. It was in our cinematography very early on in the class, and this is what we made. Trying 3 different styles of filming, and just made a simple little narrative to go with it. So, nothing major there, so very much a score I expected. Moving on, this is the second project of cinematography I did, One Good Deed. We see that 12% gave it an A, 50% gave it a B, and 38% gave it a C, leaving 0 for D and F. And when we do all the math here, One Good Deed ends up with an average score of 3.75. And not surprised there either. Once again, just showing a little more advancement in our cinematography skills. I do have some really cool shots, I think, in this film. And once again, simple narrative, silent film, no dialogue. Just me and David just were assigned together, and this is the film we made. Very basic stuff. Nothing to really write home about. So I think the votes were very much what I expected. Now we come to the very interesting one, my class final, The Pain of Regret for cinematography. We see with 11 votes, 73% gave it an A, and 27% gave it a B. Which when we do the math here, The Pain of Regret ends up with an average score of 4.73. This is an interesting one because this is the one I say is our best project. I think it's the best project I've ever worked on. It's definitely ranks right up there. So seeing it get this high a score, I'm not surprised. It's good to see everyone else really likes it too. And I wasn't expecting it to be number one with the fans. I knew it was number one with me, but more people talk about other films than this one. It was nice seeing people on campus still talking about this one because this is the film that won 2 awards at the Valentine's Day Film Festival, including Best in Fest and Best Cinematography. So I've been very proud of this film for a long time. I think it's really good, and it's good to see it get a good score here as well. And now moving on to our field production class projects. We got The Good, the Bad, and the Pizza. And we see with 9 votes, 22% gave it an A, 22% gave it a B, 44% gave it a C, and a final 11% gave it a D, leaving 0% for an F. And when we do all the math here, we see The Good, the Bad, and the Pizza ends up with an average score of 3.56. I mean, this is literally a minute-long film. Literally, we were just testing lighting. We weren't even doing sound yet. We were just doing lighting. Simple thing. Got 2 guys together, got a pizza, filmed it. Fun stuff. Very basic. So for it to get this high score, I was kind of surprised and think it's really cool. I mean, it's just an enjoyable little short film. Moving on to The Great Debate. We see that 25% gave it an A, 25% also gave it a B, 50% gave it a C, leaving 0% to give it a D, and 0% to give it an F. And when we do all the math here, The Great Debate ends up with an average score of 3.75. This is when we were testing both lighting and sound, and then I decided, why don't we just do a film that uses all the dialogue is from AFI's top 100 movie quotes, even though the last quote was actually misquoted, unfortunately. But pretty much all the dialogue, with the exception of Tyler's dialogue at the very beginning of the film, yeah, everything is from AFI's Top 100, and I was able to make a conversation using those dialogue pieces from a lot of great films. But moving on to our final film from Film Production, Striking, and we see that with a little 9 votes, 89% gave it an A and 11% gave it a B. C, D, and F all had 0%. This gives Striking an average score of 4.89. This is a really good score, and I really was surprised. I have not seen one of my class, did not expect this, of all my class projects, to get such a high score. I mean, it's a great film. I like it. I think I gave it 6th on my own ranking. I mean, it's a really good film. Really good little short film, using everything we learned from Film Production. It was filmed on a Canon C100 camera, and I came up with the story, and I wrote a pitch script, and then a couple of my classmates finished refining the script, and we shot it. A lot of us cameoed in it as the crew, and we literally filmed it over, like, I think it was like 2 days. Used the computer, you basically used our green screen room studio that was next door to our classroom. Made it simple for location scouting. And just decided to incorporate the lights and stuff that we had been working with all semester into the story, which I thought would be kind of fun. And I'm glad to see everyone else really like the film too. That's really cool. Moving on to my only project for my directing course, which was Flower. 25% gave it an A, 38% gave it a C, and the final 38% gave it a D. B and F had 0%. Which, when we do all the math here, we see that Flower ends up with an average score of 3.13. And to be honest, I think this film might be my worst film I've ever made, in my opinion. Everything was against us with this film. A windy day, and we just didn't have a whole lot of time. We were losing light, and we had to use the line, "Why would you tell a random stranger something so private?" And this is what we came up with, and later found out everyone else was doing stuff that was funny and silly, and we were the ones who really decided to hit the drama key up to 11, and it's just an uncomfortable watch because of that. And it's an odd film, so for it to be ranked this low, I'm not surprised. I'm not as huge a fan of this film for that reason. Our 2 actors, they do a good job. Alex and Candace do good with what they had, and so the blame is completely on me, I think, with this one, because I wrote the idea, the script per se, and then we just had bad weather. So honestly, a film that's just right there at the bottom, so no surprise there. Moving on, what grade would you give Choices, the rough cut class version? And we see with 9 votes, 11% gave it an A, 22% gave it a B, 44% gave it a C, 11% gave it a D, and a final 11% gave it an F. And when we do all the math here, Choices ends up with an average score of 3.11. And once again, not surprised to see it ranked this low. It literally is not even a complete film. It is technically one of my projects, and I eventually used the footage and stuff for the Lost Scene 4 Choices, but this film, I completely understand being basically at the very bottom. It's not really even a full film, and I've debated sometimes whether or not to count it as one of my films, since it's really an incomplete thing. But at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and leave it in, and just remember it as just something that helped get the Lost Scene series back up and running. And now we move on to Monopoly the movie. And this was all part of my Cinematography 2 class. This and Choices and Live Today were all part of that. And with Monopoly the movie, we see 50% gave it an A, 33% gave it a B, and 17% gave it a C, leaving D and F with 0%. And when we do all the math here, Monopoly the movie ends up with an average score of 4.33. Which is a good score. I mean, it's a fun movie. I ranked it in my top 10. I think it was number 9. It's a fun little movie. It's once again another one of those rare cases where there actually are two versions of the movie. There's the color version, which was the class version, and then when I remade it and posted it out, it was the black and white full noir movie that most people have seen. It's very enjoyable and very fun, and I really liked it. It did win an award for us, Best Directing, which was really cool to get one last award before I graduated from the film program with one of my projects. It's just a fun little comedy movie, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad everyone else seems to have enjoyed it too. And moving on, we've got what grade would you give Live Today? And we see that 25% gave it an A, 25% gave it a B, and 50% gave it a C, leaving once again D and F with 0%. And when we do all the math here, Live Today ends up with an average score of 3.75. Which I'm not surprised to see it not get that high a score. I mean, it's an experimental film. Our teacher wanted us to do an experimental film, and this is the best I could come up with. I'm not as much of an experimental filmist, so this was the best idea I had. So for it to get even this high a score, I think is kind of cool, because I wasn't as big a fan of this film. It's interesting, it's a cool experiment, but to me it's nothing more than that, just an experiment. Now moving on with my capstone film, the final film for my film program that I had to finish out. It actually wasn't the last one we filmed, because we filmed it in the summer of 2016, but it's the last one to come out fully released, and that is Drive You. We see 25% gave it an A, 58% gave it a C, and a final 17% gave it a C, leaving D and F once again with 0%. And when we do all the math here, Drive You ends up with an average score of 4.08, which, I'll be honest, good score. It was filmed on a nice red Scarlett camera. I think it looks really good. It sounds good. I got to do all the post-production work on the film, which was cool. Otto gave it a great score. It's a good little film, and I'm glad a lot of people seem to enjoy it. It's not a perfect film, but it's a good one. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed working on it. I think we all learned a lot about working on a big set with a decent sized crew and professional equipment and stuff pretty well. It was a good little capstone core, the film. So yeah, been pretty happy with it. And that actually now leads us to the final film, a film that has finally come out. And last but not least, what grade would you give The Lost Scene 5 Retribution? And we see with 16 votes, 81% gave it an A, 12% gave it a B, and 6% gave it a C. And then 0% gave it a D, and 0% gave it an F. And when we do all the math here, we see that The Lost Scene 5 Retribution ends up with an average score of 4.75. So, when we finally put all the scores together, we ended up with a few ties. And I broke up the ties with, first off, if the film had a higher percentage of A's. I would go off of that. If that was still tied, then it would be whoever had the most number of votes. And even with all that, we still ended up with two different ranks that ended up being the exact same percentages and the exact same number of votes. So there are a couple of ties in here. But now we see that A Book by Its Cover is 34th. In 33rd, we have Choices, the class version. In 32nd, we have Flower. In 31st, we have Calm Before the Storm. In 30th, we have The Price of Loyalty. In 29th, we have What You Leave Behind. In 28th, we have The Classy, the Cool, the Casual. In 27th, we have Voyage of the Undead. In 26th, we have The Good, the Bad, and the Pizza. In 25th, we have The Computer Network. In 24th, we have Martial Law. In 23rd, we have One Good Deed. And tied for 21st, we have The Great Debate and Live Today. In 20th, we have Hard Goodbyes. In 19th, we have The Lost Scene 2. In 18th, we have Chess. In 17th, we have Drive You. In 16th, we have the Martial Law Insurrection. In 15th, we have The Shadow of Revenge. In 14th, we have The Survivor Season 1. In 13th, we have The Lost Scene. In 12th, we have The Survivor War's End. In 11th, we have Monopoly the Movie. In 10th, we have Reflection of the Soul. In 9th, we have The Survivor Season 2. In 8th, we have James Bond Fan Films Are Forever. In 7th, we have The Lost Scene 4 Choices. In 6th, we have The Real Business. And tied for 4th, we have The Pain of Regret and Martial Law Reconciliation. In 3rd, we have The Lost Scene 5 Retribution. In 2nd, we have Striking. And in 1st, we have The Lost Scene 3 Covert Operations. Now, obviously, these ranks can change radically with more votes. So if you have not voted, please be sure to watch these films and vote. And we will see how much the ranks change. And I didn't talk about it earlier, but The Lost Scene 5 Retribution. I've been very happy with this film. It is getting a remastered version, which I think will make some improvements on the film. My own personal ranking is it ranks 3rd, so it is right where it's at for me, with The Pain of Regret being ranked 1st and Martial Law Reconciliation being ranked 2nd for me. Very good film. I think it's a great comeback for us, so I'm looking forward to seeing where we're able to go from here. It had everything I wanted in it, so for me, The Lost Scene 5 was a success, and it's nice to see everyone else seems to agree that it is a success. And it would appear that The Lost Scene 3 Covert Operations remains the champion right now at a score of 4.92. And number 1, it's actually interesting, the top half, 1 to 17, all ranked with a score of 4 or better. And then the bottom half are all in the 3, with the exception of A Book by Its Cover, the only film to score below a 3 with 2.90. So, interesting ranking. This is quite an interesting ranking board that we have here. Yeah, we will see how it changes throughout 2021. Yeah, be sure to continue to vote. And of course, as each film comes out, there'll be a new vote. And we'll see how it scores up against the other films. And yeah, thank you all for being part of this series and seeing how our 34 projects that we have worked on have stacked up against each other. It has been very interesting to see. And yeah, thank you all for watching. Take care.